Oh, God. So we're talking about Jake Paul. Is that Jake Paul's opening up the opportunity for fighters to get paid more?
Of course he's arrogant, but that's what sells.
Would he have a chance against Canelo?
No chance. It's like me against Canelo.
We're going to ask the boxing faithful, is Jake Paul good for boxing?
Yes. I actually like the Pauls being in boxing. I know people aren't going to like that answer, but it brings something different. I think that since the pandemic, I feel like we've seen sort of a shift in the sport. I don't know if you've noticed that as well. It's like we're getting more exhibitions. I'm not really down with the whole, legends facing each other, especially if it's like, I'm not okay with like Logan Paul, say, facing Mike Tyson. I think that to me would be not good. But overall, I don't have a problem with him being here. I mean, it brings more eyeballs. And one of the things I like is that Jake Paul's opening up the opportunity for fighters to get paid more. Like, he takes pay cuts to give the undercard more money, so you have to respect that.
Probably the integrity of the sport, no, but I mean, he sells tickets, he sells pay-per-views, that's what it's all about at the end of the day, so I don't know how you can really argue with it. Of course he's arrogant, but that's what sells. People bought Mayweather's pay-per-views because they hated him. You know what I mean? It's about selling tickets at the end of the day. Being respectful doesn't get numbers.
But I think now he's fun. I think he's a good laugh now.
Do you take him seriously, or do you think he's quite smart in how he regiments himself around boxing?
I don't take him seriously. I don't think he takes himself seriously. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. When he says what he says, I don't think he gives himself chance, really. But all the best to him. I never used to like him. I think now he's a bit of fun.
I think he is, because he brings a lot more eyes to the sport than he ever had before. I mean, look how many people were looking forward to Tommy Fury versus Jake Paul, and now they know that Jake Paul is a big name in America and in boxing. He brings a lot of eyes to the sport, and it does help. But obviously, he can't be talking about himself as being the next Muhammad Ali or fight Canelo, because he's just not going to be that.
When he comes in and says he's going to fight Canelo, what are your thoughts to that?
It's silly talk. It's just his ego. He's got cameras in front of him every day. He thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread, and he's not. He can say whatever he wants. He always does, and never read anything into it, because he's never ever going to fight Canelo.
Would he have a chance against Canelo?
No chance. It's like me against Canelo.
Is he good for boxing?
Double-ended sword, really. I think he's good for boxing if he fights boxers or more combat athletes. Don't particularly mind the Tyron Woodley fight. I think it's competitive, at least. It's not like a basketball player. He does draw a lot of eyes on the sport. The only thing is, you just don't want it to become a mockery. I think if the Tommy Fury was a good fight, obviously Tommy's got limited amateur experience, it would have been really good to see that fight and see how it went. It'll do big numbers as well, and it's a numbers game, is boxing, so it's one of them. I can take it or leave it, but I don't particularly mind it, as long as it's relatively competitive and it's not a complete joke.
Yes, I would say he's good for boxing, because basically what he's showing people is that if you can build a fan base and build an audience, it creates more opportunities in boxing for you. And obviously on the negative side, I know some fighters don't like him, but obviously if you've got someone who's got 10, 20 million followers on social media, they're going to be able to sell a lot of pay-per-views, a lot of ticket sales as well. So that's my advice to fighters, take it into account.
Do you find him smart? Do you think he's smart in how he's done it? And you see him calling out people like Canelo and saying he's going to fight Canelo, but is he smart in what he's doing? He's generating all that publicity towards him.
Yeah, I'd say, I don't know if he's smart per se, but I think, like me, he gets a lot of this stuff. It's very obvious. If you're as famous as him, if you just call out people like Canelo and so on, people are going to react to it.
Where do you see boxing going with Jake Paul then? I know he's calling out Canelo, but in terms of boxing in the future, do you think we'll see more of these style of fights? And do you think he's, like you say, going to bring more money in for all fighters?
I think we'll see more exhibition style fights, because that's just sort of the trending thing to do now, which I'm sure will eventually fade out. But I can see him sort of sticking around a bit longer, because from people who are actually working actively with him or have been sparring him, he's really actually living the life. It's not something that and I don't mean any disrespect by this, but I've actually heard other coaches, trainers, people that he sparred with saying that he's taking this more seriously than some active fighters. Like, he's literally living the life, all the time, all year round, is working on his craft. So how can you not respect that? I mean, what is it exactly? Is it because he's a YouTuber and he's made some silly videos over the years, him and his brother, but what is it particularly that we don't like about him and what he's doing? I can't answer that question.